What's up everyone, it's the Irishman here, back to play another session today. We're returning to Grand Villa. There was some sick action out here last time. Miserable day today, day for the Ducks, piss and rain all day, so game should be good. A lot of people sitting inside gambling for the day. Thanks for all the support on the Christmas episode, done really good numbers, lots of entries to the competition. If you haven't entered already, I will link the previous video at the end of this one. Go in, enter for a chance to win $300. So today we're going to play the 2-5. We're going to jump in for 1,000, see how we get on. Let's go. Right, so quick update, change of plans. We're out here at Grand Villa. There's 2-2-5s running and there's a list for 5-10. There's also another 2-5 that's going to kick off. Usually there's only like 2-5 games, 5-10 only goes out weekends from what I've heard. So given that it's the holiday season, the room is pretty busy, people are off work. It's going to be a good time to take a shot on the 5-10. Got our coffee, we're ready to go. Hopefully we don't get crushed. Welcome back to the vlog. Today we're taking a shot in a 5-10 game at Grand Villa. It's a Tuesday and this game only runs at weekends, so given it's the holiday season, it looked like a really good lineup and it became apparent pretty quickly that there was only one other reg in the game. Everyone else was recreational players. It's a 500 min buy-in, 2.5k max. We jump in for 1,500, 150 big blinds ready to go to battle. So kicking off the first hand, we have 1,500 we bought in for. We look down at 5-6 at diamonds in middle position and open to $35. The button calls and the big blind calls. So we're going three ways to a flop with a pretty nice suited connected hand here. Flop comes down 10 of clubs, 7 of spades, 2 of diamonds. So we've only 6 high here, but we have a couple of backdoors to some straights, backdoor flush draw. And given that we'd be betting a lot of our overpairs here, we're going to start off with a bet when it's checked to us. We bet out $50 and only the button calls. The turn now comes to 3 of hearts, so we pick up a good shot. There's 2-10 in the middle. I think this is a card we're going to want to continue bluffing. If we did have a hand like an overpair, we would continue to bet. So we want to mix in some of our weakest hands, and 6 high is certainly going to be a candidate. We bet 125 and the button hangs around again. So we're looking for a 4 on the river here. That's not what comes. It comes to 9 of hearts. So now we have a decision here. Do we want to bluff this hand? I think given that we've only 6 high, this is definitely a hand we're going to want to bluff. Considering we're going to be betting our strongest hands, we want to also bet our weakest hands. So 6 high has 0 showdown. This is going to be a candidate as a bluff. I don't think we get to the river with any worse hands. Given the fact as well that if he did have a set or 2 pair, I think we hear from them on an earlier street. Like if he had 2 pair or a set on the turn, I would expect him to raise. So I think he's also pretty capped to 1 pair hands, with his best hand maybe being a hand like ace-10. So I think if we did have an overpair, we would still continue to go for some value on this river. I think using a size, maybe 2/3 pot is pretty good. So we bet $300 into 460. Trying to put a lot of pressures on his worst hands here. A hand like Jack-10 suited, Queen-10 is going to have a tough time calling this river bet. After some time in the tank, he eventually lets it go and we get the bluff through. Nice way to start the session, getting a bluff through right away. So in this next hand, we've been pretty card dead for a while and we finally pick up a playable one. We look down at ace-jack suited in the low jack. The game's definitely been pretty wild so far. There's been a ton of action, lots of big pots, a lot of gambling going on. So we pick up a pretty decent hand. We open ace-jack suited in the low jack to 35. The small blind decides to 3-bet it up to $135. The small blind in this hand is definitely the only other reg in the game. He's been playing pretty well so far. He's been super aggro, opening a lot of unopened pots, 3-betting a bunch. Definitely being the table captain, so ace-jack suited here is going to be a pretty easy call. The flop comes down jack of clubs, 6 of diamonds, 5 of diamonds, so we flop top pair here. Pretty good board for our exact hand. We do also have to be careful, he can still have overpairs, but I'd expect him to do a lot of betting with hands he whiffs the flop here with. He continues for 150 into 280. Bit on the bigger size in a 3-bet pot, but I think we can do nothing else but just call again. Turn now comes to 3 of hearts, pretty much a blank. Doesn't really connect with either of us here in this 3-bet pot. He continues again for $300. So I would expect him, especially a player this aggro, to barrel a lot of hands here that we are ahead of. He can barrel some overcards, going to have some flush draws he's going to barrel. So I think with ace jack of spades here, we're just going to call again. We do block him having a set of jacks. We block pocket aces. So as far as our range, I think on the turn, we would raise our 6-5 suited, some of our sets. So we need to have some strong hands to call. And this is one of the best one pair hands we have. So we're going to just stick around. The river now comes to 2 of spades. It puts a 4-liner to a straight out there. Any 4 is now a straight. I wouldn't expect any of us to have too many 4s, although he can have one of the 3 combos of ace 4 suited left. There's 1180 in the middle, and he decides on a bet of $500. So pretty tough spot for us now on this river. We're getting over 3-1 on a call here. So we only need to be good 25% or so of the time. So I think if you look at what his value is going to be, he's going to have a set of jacks, which we block, so there's only 1 combo left. He can have the 3 combos of 6-5 suited. He can have queens, kings, and aces, are what I'd imagine. I wouldn't expect him to have too many 6s or 5s, although we can have them at a low frequency. But given the fact that we probably raise a lot of our sets on 2 pairs on an earlier street, this is probably the strongest hand we get to the river with. We do block aces. We block a set of jacks. So I think we could fold some of our weakest queens, like a hand like queen jack suited, jack 10 suited, even king jack suited, because I would expect them maybe to triple off with a hand like king queen. I'd expect them, being so aggro, to probably go for it here and have enough bluffs. He can also bluff some missed flush draws. If he had a hand like 8-9 of diamonds, 9-10 of diamonds, ace-9 of diamonds, a bunch of hands will probably bluff the river. So given that we don't need to be good here that much of the time, we have one of our strongest calling hands. We're not loving it, but I think we just need to flick in the call and see what he turns over. We flick in the call, and we instantly get the bad news when he turns over pocket aces. So pretty unlucky to run into the top of his range there, but I don't think we can do anything else but just call down with this hand. So in this next hand, we look down at a pretty powerful hand on the button. We look down at the Cowboys, second best hand in poker. We're going to raise it up here to $35. The small blind calls and the big blind calls. Flop comes down ace of spades, 6 of clubs, 6 of hearts. Typical, always a fucking ace when you have pocket kings. Checks to us. Think if it was a heads up pot, we could go with a small bet here, but into 2 players, we're just going to pot control. Any one of them could easily have an ace or a 6, so we're just going to check it back, keep the pot manageable, and see what happens on the turn. Turn now comes the 8 of clubs. The small blind leads out for $85. The big blind folds, and I think we have a pretty easy call here. There's a bunch of hands he can be bluffing with, so we're just going to call with the kings, try get them to showdown, and hopefully have the winner. River now comes an absolute gin one. Comes the king of diamonds. Don't know why I was complaining earlier. You just need to wait till the river and spike your card. Now we're really hoping he has a 6. We just made a full house. We can win a massive pot here if he does. Even if he has an ace, he might still bet. So we're hoping that he bets, but he does the opposite. He decides to check. So we're going to go with a bet here. There's 275 in the middle, and we bet 225. Don't think we want to go too big, because I would have expected a 6 still to bet and a lot of aces at some frequency. So we're going to fire out a bet here. Hopefully get called by an ace. We don't want to go too big. Like, this is not a spot where I'd want to overbet, just because I think he does bet a 6s on the river. So we're trying to get value from an ace. And the thing about all aces, bar ace king and ace 8 chop. So he's going to not want to call too big a bet with just a hand like ace 7 off, because he knows he's going to chop with a lot of aces. So if we go too big, he might just fold. So we settle on a size of 225. He tanks for a good while, eventually flicks in the call. We show him the goods, and we finally scoop a pot. So in this hand, we're in the big blind. The 20 straddle is on under the gun. It's been on quite a bit this game. There's a couple of players who have it on every orbit. So we have a stack of, I think, 1200 or 1250 or so, something like that. We've lost a couple of small ones. We're just whiffing flops. Nothing really going our way. Pretty card dead in an action game, which is always pretty tilting. So in this hand, with the 20 straddle on, the hijack opens to 75 and the button calls. I look down at ace 10 off in the big blind. Don't really want to call here and play this hand out of position. I think when the hijack opens and the button calls, they should have two pretty wide ranges. So it seems like a pretty decent spot to squeeze. If we get it through, we pick up $170 without seeing a pot, which is always a good result. So I think we're going to squeeze this hand. It has some good blocking properties to some of the strongest hands. So we decide to raise to $275. The hijack folds. We're expecting the button to fold, but that's not what he does. He decides to call. We're going heads up to a flop. There's 650 in the middle, and it comes down king of spades, jack of hearts, seven of hearts. So we flop nothing here. We have a good shot to the nut straight, but on this board we are going to have a range advantage. We're going to have way more of the strongest hand. So I think we should start with a small c-bet. We can get hands like pocket nines, pocket eights. Some of these middle and pocket pairs are going to just fold straight away. So I think it's a good spot to fire out a c-bet. We don't want to go too big. We're going to be betting a lot of hands. We bet 175 and he flicks in a call pretty quickly. So not really loving the spot now. We have less than pot behind on the turn. We're hoping for a miracle card. That's not what happens. The 5 of diamonds comes on the turn, and now I think we're just going to give up. There's 1,000 in the middle. We've less than 1,000 behind. I think it will be a pretty big punt. Our only bet size here is all in. We can't bet small again because we have less than pot left. So this player as well is a bit of an older dude. I don't think he's going to fold if we shove. So when we check and he bets 400, we're just going to let it go. So after that pot, our stack dribbles down to a bit over 600. The 20's been on a lot. So it's only 30 bigs. We bought 3k to the casino today to play 2-5. We end up taking a shot at 5-10. We're going to back ourselves here. We're going to reload for the last 1,000, bringing us into a total of 3 grand. If it goes wrong, no harm done, but it's certainly the game where one pot goes our way, we could be back to even plus more. The action's been pretty wild so far. So this hand, under the gun opens to 50, which is 5x. It's a pretty big raise. The hijack calls, and I look down at the cowboys on the button. This could be a nice hand to get us back in the even books. We 3-bet it to 195, and both players call. The flop comes down 9-4-4 with 2 spades. There's 600 in the middle. Under the gun checks, the hijack checks, and we have a clear continue for value with our overpair here. I'd expect to have the best hand here a lot of the time. I'm not really worried about a 4. I don't think under the gun when he opens 5x and calls should have any 4s. Maybe the odd time he has 8-4 suited or 4-5 suited. But when he opens to 50, when in other pots he was opening to 35, I think we might be able to exclude them hands. The hijack is the most likely out of all 3 of us to have a 4. But we have a clear continue here when they both check to us. We bet 225, just over a third pot. Under the gun calls and the hijack folds. So now we're really liking the situation because given what I said about the open size before, if we read into that he might have a stronger hand than usual, given he 5x'd under the gun, I think it's a lot likely now that he can have a hand like 10s, jacks, queens, which we're going to continue to get value unless a scare card comes on the turn. He can also have some worse flush draws even though we have the king of spades. So pretty happy now with this situation heading to the turn. Turn now comes the 8 of clubs. It's 1100 in the middle, so we're going to be hoping to get our stack in by the river. I don't think I just want to overbet jam because I think he might get away from a hand like pocket 10s if we just rip. So we decide to bet $400. He doesn't think that long before sticking us all in for our remaining chips. So we've invested over half our stack into the pot here. The 8 of clubs shouldn't change too much on the turn, and even a hand like 9-8 suited, we still beat now because there's 2 4s on the flop. So the hands I think he shoves are going to be maybe an ace-4 suited that called, a 5-4 suited, but by that I don't think he has too many 4s. He could have pocket 9s, but I would expect 9s at some frequency to just call the turn because he wants to let me continue to hang myself if I am bluffing. So I wouldn't expect 9s to raise too much, but I can't be sure. Then he can also have some flush draws, maybe a hand that picked up more equity on the turn. If he had a hand like 10 jack of spades, queen jack of spades, 6-7 of spades, hands that pick up straight draws to go with their flush draw, these are definitely candidates he might rip because he knows he can get fold from if I'm bluffing with ace king or ace queen, hands that are ahead of his say 10 high or jack high flush draw. he can get them to fold, which is a really good result for his hand. So given all these factors, I think we just have to call here. We can find so many hands that we're beating. There's not that much tick value that we're losing to. Yeah, sometimes we might be beat, but I think we just need to put the money in and see what happens. River comes an offsuit 3, and he turns over pocket 9s for a flop full house. So pretty sick there to lose a massive pot. It's a pretty bad cooler when he just flops a full house against our overpair. Don't think we could have done much. Let me know if he would have folded the turn, but I think in such an action game, I didn't think he would check jam a house on the turn. I mean, it makes sense if he wants to stack the overpairs, but it's a pretty gross one. I don't think we can do anything but lose our stack there, but maybe you think different. If you have any other suggestions how you would have played the hand, let me know in the comments below. But unlucky there. I think we took our shot today and we missed, but the game was really good. I think we're always going to back ourselves in these situations. I'm happy to take shots. When they do go well, you can win a bunch of money. So that happens. That's poker. We'll definitely be taking more shots on the vlog again. So no harm done. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you now on the out. So we're just leaving the game now. The sun run has come to an end. They got us today, but the game was pretty crazy. There was piles of money on the table. Like, people were just opening to 200 pre-flop. There was just a lot of gambling going on, and I think we were pretty card dead for a lot of the sessions. Like, we just didn't really pick up hands to battle with. We lost the ace jack hand against aces, and then the last hand there where we got stacked was like pretty gross. I think he has enough just random like jack ten of spades or stuff that like turns more equity with a flush draw that we probably have to call the kings. I don't know, but yeah, some runs come to an end. That happens. I think it's good to take shots. Game looked good. We were on a heater. Like, we could have been on the other end of that where you just win like 5k. So happy with taking the shot. We should be taking shots as much as possible. It's always good. It ended up doing the profit at the last session, but look, we're back where we were for that session. No harm done. I definitely, like, if that game was running again with that same lineup, I think I'd always just have to take the shot. As always, thanks for tuning in. Competition is still open in the last video in the comments. Competition is still open, so make sure you enter that for a chance to win $300. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.